Good morning, it's Wednesday, April 22nd, and I'm here to do the bell ringer activity for Tuesday, April 21st. You had questions about enclaves and exclaves, and as the question says at the bottom, morphology is no longer something that's on the AP exam specifically, so you won't get a question on the AP exam that says define these terms. However, you will get questions that ask you about how a particular term works, what it's used for, or better yet, how political space is utilized, meaning that they might ask you how a country functions, with another country, relationships between countries. They won't specifically ask you about morphology, but they will ask you whether or not space is being utilized a certain way. So let's make sure we have good definitions for each of these terms, or at least know what we're talking about. Even though, again, you won't have to define these terms on the AP exam. We just need to know what they are. An enclave is a piece of territory that is completely surrounded by another single sovereign entity. So, for example, Lesotho is totally inside of South Africa. That's an enclave. Okay. Enclave means enclosed. All right. And what's the implication of being an enclave? In the case of Lesotho, you're a sovereign country. You make all of your own decisions, but you're inside of South Africa, which means that you can't leave your country without passing through another sovereign country. And you can't pass through another sovereign country without their permission. This means that the citizens of Lesotho cannot leave their country to go to some other part of the world without the permission of another country, which is very unique and unusual. But let's think about how this would impact economic activities. The bulk of the world's trade floats over the world's oceans. And if your country, Lesotho, is inside of another country, there's no way that trade can reach you directly via the ocean. Thus, the government of Lesotho's economy, needs a relationship with South Africa where it can access the oceans to be able to access trade. Now, some of you are saying, just fly the stuff in. Think about how expensive it is for you to fly someplace, and then imagine if we're flying things like bananas or toilet paper. Their cost goes up to an extreme level. It's much cheaper to float it over the ocean in a supertanker or a container ship. Okay, an exclave. Exclave is defined as a piece of territory that is separated from the rest of the country. So first off, there must be at least two parts to a single country to have an exclave. Exclave does not require that your territory is completely surrounded or enclosed, just that part A of your country is separated from part B of your country. Some noteworthy examples. There's a little piece of Russia that is in Europe that is part of Russia, but it's a tiny little section that's right near the other Baltic states. Alaska, not attached to the rest of the United States. There's actually a tiny piece of Washington state that is not accessible from the rest of the United States. You must go into Canada in your car and then drive back into Washington state, back into the United States. Okay, not Hawaii. Hawaii is a series of islands. You do not have to pass through another sovereign country in order to get there. You would pass across the world's oceans, and remember, the world's oceans are a totally different thing. There are large numbers of examples of exclaves all throughout Asia. Asian countries are historically old, having had large numbers of people and established governing structures for long periods of time, and their borders have moved back and forth, and that has caused little fragments of states to be left behind. The border between Vietnam and China has a whole bunch of exclaves, and most notably for our class, the boundaries of Azerbaijan and Armenia. If you don't remember what I'm talking about, go back and look in these slides on religious conflict on Armenia and Azerbaijan and the boundaries between those. Okay, now let's make it a little more confusing. If you're an enclave, you're completely surrounded by another sovereign country. Sometimes exclaves are that way. Some exclaves are completely inside of another country. There is a piece of India that is completely inside Bangladesh. to make things even weirder, there's a piece of Bangladesh that's completely inside that piece of India that's completely inside. Anyway, the point here is you can have exclaves that are also enclaves, but not all exclaves are enclaves. Are all enclaves always exclaves? Remember the Lesotho example from the very beginning. Lesotho is not part of another country, so it's an enclave. It's completely inside South Africa, but it is not an exclave because there's no other second piece of Lesotho. Okay, so I hope that helps straighten out those concepts for you and get you to think about how these countries might need to function together, or how their populations may have difficulty moving from one place to the next. I'll get this video uploaded shortly. Have a good Wednesday and stay safe.